Okay, I'm trying a new setup, so we'll see how it works, but I wanted to use the back camera on my phone because I think it's probably a whole lot better than the front camera, but that scares me because then I can't see myself and like see how the picture looks and like if everything's in frame. So this is crazy. I have a mirror like set up on a very small desk, like a nightstand, and I have it tipped so that I can see the phone in the reflection, and I'm kind of impressed that it worked. I wasn't really sure it was going to. But yeah, here we are. So hopefully this will be better. I'll see if the quality is worth the trouble. The other problem is that with my glasses off, I actually can't see like anything in the mirror, so it doesn't really help. And the holder for my phone goes right across like where I'm standing, so if I can't see myself in my phone, it's actually a good thing, or in the reflection of my phone. But anyway, we'll see. This is new and interesting, and I'll see if it works and if I want to keep doing this, because I know that the quality on my videos has not been very good, and it's not for lack of trying. I just am very limited right now in the equipment that I have and the equipment that I can get, and I did think about getting like a $400 camera or something, but I think that that's gonna have to wait just a little while. Also, a lot of the cameras in that price range don't have a viewfinder that flips around anyway, so then I'm back to this situation where I can't even see what I'm doing and what's in frame and whatever. So I'm working on that. I will figure it out at some point. But yeah, anyway, let's get into this. I'm going to do just like quick reviews of the books that I've read since returning home from school. Basically this summer so far. It's August to date this. About a week before this will come out, hopefully. If I can get it like all edited and thumbnail done and everything, this will be the next video. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm just gonna breeze through and do like quick reviews because, I don't know, tell me if you want more like in-depth reviews like I was doing, because I really enjoy doing those, but I also want to make sure that they're enjoyable for everybody else, and like before I go to that trouble of making them, and I'd probably have to do it in a different style anyway, so I'm just playing around here and seeing what will work. But for now, we're just gonna run through these. If you want me to do a more in-depth review on any of them, like with a content guide and talking about the writing and all of that, like let me know, and yeah, I can work that out. But let's just get into it. I'm gonna try to go in order from the last read to the most present read, so my memory might be foggy on some of them, which is another reason I'm just doing like general reviews, because I didn't do reviews right after reading them, and now I have forgotten a lot of things. So here we go. But the first one I read after coming home, actually this is not the first one I read. Oh, apparently it is. Okay, the first book I finished after coming home. I was reading a different one and just not really making any progress with it, so I read this one. This is a book that I have had since freshman year at college. I went to a Books A Million before I even moved in. I put all my stuff in my dorm, and then my mom and I just went around town, and I found out that a Books A Million, so we went there and I picked up this book because it was on sale, and then I didn't read it for 4 years. So when I came home, I was like, this has got to be one of my first reads. And I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. Is it kind of cheesy? Yes. Is it the best written? No. But it's not bad either. I had a fun time, and I thought the characters were kind of fun. They're maybe not the most engaging, but honestly, I thought it was fun. I did enjoy this. I thought it was cute. I don't know. I really liked Sam better than Penny, for sure. He was a lot more fun, like his chapters were more fun to read from, and I thought he was more interesting, and I would have liked to have like known more about him. But it was still fun. Penny did not annoy me nearly as much as I thought she was going to. The first like couple chapters, I was like, oh gosh, here's another like young adult main character who's like, oh, woe is me, life is terrible, everybody hates me and I hate everybody. And I was like, this is gonna suck. But she really was not that bad. I have read so much worse. The main character in 180 Seconds, for instance, could not stand her the entire way through. I was like, girl, get over yourself, nobody cares. But I didn't feel quite so strongly about Penny, so that made it more enjoyable. And again, I liked Sam. I thought he was kind of cool. So yeah, that was a fun one. It also helped to like get me out of a reading slump, so that's always a plus. Then I read The Scribe, and this is actually a book that my professor wrote. I had 2 creative writing professors at school, and one of them has published 2 books. Actually, I'll grab the other one. It's right here. So I read The Resurrectionist, maybe sophomore year, like in the summer in between sophomore and junior or between freshman and sophomore. I don't quite remember, but I did really like it. It's not quite my type of book, but I really liked the dual perspectives, and it went back and forth between like a way earlier date in like the 1800s. Hold on, it's been a while. I'm so bad at remembering these things. Okay, yeah, okay. So 19th century and then like more modern day. It goes back and forth between those. And it's signed and yeah, I don't know. I did really like it. I, of course, liked the writing, which is good. You know, sometimes you don't know if your professors know what they're talking about, and this professor did. So that was a lot of fun. So I finally got the Scribe last semester, because I was like, I'm graduating, I need to get it before I leave. I need to have him sign it before I leave. So he did sign it. So he signed it, and here at the bottom where it says, and carry the fire, is kind of a joke between us, because I really, really hated The Road. I had to read that for class, and I read it early, like over December break, because I knew I was going to have a very reading-heavy semester. So I asked a couple of my professors, are there any books I can get out of the way over December break while I actually have time to read before I go into a semester with like 3 heavy reading classes? And so The Road was one that he recommended that I, read and just get through. And I hated it. Absolutely hated it. And it's one of his favorite books, and he thinks it's like the best book of the century, like so good. And I just could not get behind it. And it's been a point of contention between us. I have ranted about it. I ranted about it in my capstone, actually, and was like, what was this book? What are you talking about? And one of the things I ranted about was the whole carry the fire thing, and like, what is the fire they're carrying? And is that just like something to say? It's like, I heard somebody describe it as the fire is the plot. So whenever the father says, because we're carrying the fire, we must carry the fire, basically it means, well, the plot has to go somewhere, so we do this for the plot. And that's kind of how I felt reading it. And so Dr. Gwynn signed this, and then we chatted a little bit afterwards, and he's like, I almost wrote carry the fire in there, but I didn't know if that would be too much. And I was like, excuse me, add it right now. Like, you have to. So he put a star and says, and carry the fire. And that's really special. But anyway, about the book itself. Again, not quite my type of novel. It's a mystery, like thriller kind of. But I really enjoyed it. It was really good. I liked the characters a lot. Yeah, really liked the characters. Really like his writing, of course, which is always nice. And I thought the plot was actually very well done. I just don't read a lot of mystery, so it was not my genre, but still an enjoyable read. Okay, this is one that I started while I was still at school, like the last week or so of the semester. I think after classes had ended, but before I was coming home. And I started it because this is my dad's favorite series. He has read through it so many times. He loves the writing, he loves the characters, he loves so much about the series. And so I wanted to read it, because he's always recommending it. And I did enjoy it. I think it's very well written. The characters are a lot of fun. And it was also really fun going through it and being like, oh, I remember this passage because Dad used to read this to us. There were so many bits in here that I was like, yeah, I've heard that. So that was always fun to get to. I did really like it. But it took me a while to get through because there's also a lot of like technical explaining about life on the sea and working on like the old ships and or whatever. This is probably not a ship. I don't even remember what it is because they're always like, this is not a sloop and this is this and whatever, telling you all the differences between everything. I'm like, that's helpful, but I don't need that. Like, that's part of what my dad loves about it, and that's part of what I did not like about it. It's the same thing with Moby Dick. Moby Dick was so much worse for this, by the way. There were just chapters and chapters where the author is just explaining everything about whaling and about how to, like, dissect a whale. Not really dissect. I don't know what the word is that I want. Not fillet. But basically how to fillet a whale. And just, like, all the ins and outs of whaling and all the technical side of it. And I'm just like, I don't really care. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I don't care. I don't want to hear about it. Get back to the story. So there were not so many moments like that in this book, but there were still quite a few, especially because this is the first in the series. So I think Patrick O'Brian kind of tried to get all of that out here so that for the rest of the series, he's not having to explain things all the time. Kind of just explained it all in this one, which is good. I can respect that. But yeah, it took me a while to get through it for that reason. But it is very good. And the characters are so much fun, and the dialogue is so much fun. I am such a dialogue person, and this has some really, really great dialogue in it. So, a good read, for sure. I should be giving star ratings. Okay, I gave Emergency Contact 3 stars, I gave The Scribe 5 stars, and I gave this one 4 stars. Next, I read 1984, which I thought, this will be a really quick read. It's small, it's a classic that like I haven't read, I would like to read it. But I was also really nervous going into it because I read A Brave New World last summer and don't know how I feel about it. Sometimes it really hooked me and I was interested, other times I was very confused. I couldn't tell you how it ended. I don't remember at all. I just came away from it feeling like that was a really weird book, really disturbing sometimes, like chapter 1, immediately disturbing. So I was kind of afraid to read 1984 because I thought it was going to be like very similar, and they definitely are very similar vibes. Like I get where they're the same category, they're often compared to each other, they're that like big government bad changes all the things and one person like revolts against it, figures out that like, oh, it's bad. I would love for George Orwell and Aldous Huxley to have been able to like sit down in a room together and try to make their governments work together, because some things they were exactly the same on, basically. You know, it's like, okay, big government controls everything, is involved in everything, and knows what's best. But then there are other things that they were complete opposites on, especially moral issues, where like, this government is all for one thing, the other government's against it, whatever. Like, moral opposites. And I thought it'd be so interesting to see how those worlds could fit together, and like, if those governments could come to some sort of understanding and work together. So that's what I would love to see. I would find an essay on that so interesting. And maybe that's something I should like delve into more myself, but I don't know if I want to. I might, we'll see. Maybe if I have a lot of time on my hands this winter, I'll go back through them both and like find a bunch of commentaries and then, you know, try to sort that out. But overall, I enjoyed this a lot more than I enjoyed A Brave New World. I really liked the main character more, and I found it to be a little bit quicker moving. I wasn't quite sure how it was going to end until towards the end. I kind of figured out like, okay, this is one way that it could end. I think this is what's going to happen, but I still didn't know how we were going to get there. So it was interesting to see how we got there. I will say I had a huge complaint, and that's that, which you can see in like, I did a reading blog for this, and I talk about this in there, but there's like 20 pages that's just telling us things that we already know, but a little bit more in depth. So it's the same problem I have with Master and Commander and Moby Dick, where I'm like, you're taking me out of the story, you're over-explaining. I don't need to know this. I already picked up on this, I'm not an idiot. Or like, okay, it's not quite the same as the other two books, because they're like telling you things you wouldn't know unless you had this as a hobby or whatever. But you're literally being taken through chapters of the book, which is a book within this world, and it's telling you, this is what the world was like 30 years ago. This is what it was like 50 years ago. This is how we got here. This is what it's like now. These are all the things. And I'm like, okay, I've picked up on that. Like, maybe I didn't know every single detail, but I didn't need to know every single detail. And there's a quote, which I'm not going to find. I didn't mark it, but at the end of that, our main character is like, there's a quote about, you know, he didn't really learn anything new. He just learned more in depth what he already knew. I'm like, yes, that's how I feel. That added nothing for me. Thank you. So that was 20 pages. That was really hard to get through. It's also like small print. I'm hoping that that's like focusing and whatever, but it's very small print. A lot of it is just like big blocks of text, which is okay if it's interesting, but when you're just telling me, like, you're just over describing things, don't give me a whole page of text. And this is partially a pet peeve, because at my school, my professor like drilled into us, you don't want to just have blocks. You want to break them up. You want to have different things happening. You want to keep attention. You want to keep the story moving, whatever. And I get that like this was a way to write 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 20 years, not 20 years ago, probably more like 50 years ago. But even like Victorian novels probably have a lot more blocks of text. And it just feels outdated. And I don't think it's so much that like we don't have the attention span for that anymore. It's just that it's not needed. Like, don't treat me like I'm an idiot. Treat me like, write for an intelligent audience. That's another thing my professor said. He was like, write for the audience that you want and assume an intelligent reader. Don't write for an idiot, write for an intelligent reader. And if somebody can't understand your book, I mean, unless you're being like really, what's the word I want? I don't know. You can go overboard and just be like, you know, looking down on people and be a jerk about it. But assume an intelligent reader. Don't write for idiots. And sometimes this felt like he was writing for idiots. Like, oh, you don't understand what I'm saying? Let me spell it out for you. And I'm like, no, I do understand what you're saying. Cut back a little. But then there are other things in this that I didn't understand, so it's kind of a give and take. I don't think I'm quite political enough to fully enjoy this. Probably not even quite philosophical enough. Like, I did not give this the attention that it needed, probably. Which is why it scares me to think about doing a comparison between the politics and government in this book and the politics and government in A Brave New World. But maybe I'll be up to that challenge at some point. In one of my last videos, I talked about how I want to read more sci-fi, and how this is a book that I've had on my shelf for years, probably a decade at least. And I just have not read it. And I got it because I thought the cover was really well done. I just think that's pretty. I don't know about you. I think that's gorgeous. So props to Bob Eggleton, who did the cover art. And that's why I picked it up. I was like, ooh, it's really pretty. Maybe I will enjoy it. And I also was a little bit more into sci-fi and fantasy at that time. It's been a while since I've read sci-fi and fantasy. Or it had been. I'm coming up to a fantasy series that I just finished, but I don't even know what I gave this one. Oh yeah, ratings. I keep forgetting that I do ratings. I gave 1984 4 stars. I gave Shadow of the Scorpion 2 stars, and that was probably generous. Part of that is that it just wasn't the sci-fi that I was looking for. I think I wanted more like a space opera or like Halo. Honestly, I want to read Halo. That's what I was hoping for, because I had just finished playing through Halo 5, and I was just like, I want to be in that world. I want some sort of like space whatever sci-fi with like the main character that just, you know, everybody loves and respects and is this general like whatever, like Master Chief. So that's kind of what I was hoping for. That's not what I got. This is like an adventure novel with a couple sci-fi elements. And honestly, too many sci-fi elements in the wrong way, where it feels like a lot of the gadgets just mean they can do whatever they want. It's like bad magic in fantasy, where you're in a tight bind, oh look, there's a spell for that, you can get out of it, or whatever. Or that's kind of how this felt, is that whatever was going on, our main character was better than it, or had some gadget that could help him, or just somehow knew how to fight like this and could defeat 10 people. I was not into that. It also had a couple very mature scenes, shall we say, for no reason, honestly. I'm like, you didn't need to go there, and you didn't need to write them like that. I didn't appreciate that, which is just, you know, not my thing. Not what I want to read. It's like, okay, thanks. Yeah, so just not my book. And the writing was not very good, which I have heard that Neil Asher's writing is better in later books, but I don't think I'll be continuing this, which is kind of too bad, because I think it's kind of an interesting world. I wouldn't mind learning more about the world, like if he had some books that were just heavy on world building and just hanging out in the world and knowing what their life is like every day. I would be here for that. That'd be fun. But I just didn't care enough about the character, or any of the characters, and I didn't like the writing. I found myself rewriting this one constantly in my head, which is not something I normally do. I'm usually able to, like, ignore writing as long as it's not too bad. Like, I prefer good writing, but I can do with some, you know, subpar writing, for sure, and still enjoy it and not be, like, rewriting everything. I was literally rewriting every few sentences. Like, that's kind of bad. So, yeah, not for me. Sorry to just kind of pick on Neil Asher. You might enjoy this if you like sci-fi, if you like that sort of adventure book. Great, honest, fantastic. But it's not really for me. Okay, we're getting to the end. And then the last 3 books that I read, I actually listened to on audiobook, but I have them, so I'm going to talk about them. I listened to these while I was at work, because I work cleaning for some inns in the area, so I have a lot of time to just listen to something. I'm not talking to anybody, I'm not doing any sort of like serious brain work, I'm just cleaning. So I've been listening to podcasts, but I came to the end of my podcast that I listened to, and I was like waiting for new episodes. I was listening to a lot of music that I've listened to a bajillion times, and it just doesn't help like the time go that much faster. So I decided, since I had these audiobooks on Audible, I might as well finally listen to them, because I've never actually read the series. I started The Fellowship of the Rings a while ago, just couldn't get into it. So yeah, so here's my like hopefully brief overview of this series. Overall, great. Loved it. Yeah, it was very cool to actually meet the characters in this way, because it's also been a long time since I watched the movies. So I love the movies, and I love the casting and the characters in that. But it definitely is different reading it. And I know there's a lot that's not in the movies, or at least not in like the not extended versions of the movies, which is probably what I watched. I don't know. It's been so long. But it was also really nice reading them after so long because I didn't remember a lot of the story. Like, I knew the basic plot points and I knew how it ended, but I didn't know the full story of how we got there or what happened to every single character. So that was cool to like have a new thing every time and to kind of be on the edge of my seat and not know what's going to happen. Really helped work to go by faster. Tolkien lost me a little bit in this one because there's so much just like walking and wandering and like history. He does give a lot of history in these books. And I was talking to somebody who has read them multiple times and really loves Tolkien and loves these 3 books. And she mentioned how like there is so much that he edited out of them. So like props to Tolkien for knowing this is way too much, take a bunch of it out. But there still is so much in these books that I feel like could have been cut down. And as she rereads them, there are portions that she just skips over because she knows it already and she doesn't want to read it. She doesn't care anymore. And that's kind of how I felt. There were times that I was zoning out and not paying attention. I was like, well, that probably wasn't important. It's all just history that we've heard before. Because that's another thing that I did not like is that with the switching perspectives, is you stay with this group of characters for forever, especially in these last 2 books when they get split up. Spoilers, I guess, but not really. So you'll like read through this whatever situation that happened, and then the characters will meet up again, and then you get to hear it again from a different perspective, or like a cut down version, but you're still hearing the same facts that you just read about, the same storyline, the same happenings, action, whatever. And I'm like, I don't need to hear it again. I don't really care. Just tell us that like, oh yes, and they all reminisced. Great, that's all I need to know. Like, I don't need another 5 pages of this account that we just read. We just lived with the characters. So there was a lot of that, but overall I do really love the characters. I don't know how I feel about the casting for Frodo in the movies now, because I feel like that's not at all how I pictured him in the books. I did not picture Elijah Woods, which I pictured most of the other cast as the characters, because I don't see things super well in my head, so I have a hard time like making up what characters would look like. So if I know that they're cast in a movie and I know who they are, that's usually how I'll see the characters. But I just could not see this as Frodo. Like, that's not Frodo. And don't get me wrong, love the movies, and I'm really excited to rewatch them. And I think that this is a series that I personally would just enjoy more as movies. The books were great, they were fun to read, I'm glad to have them under my belt. But it's a little too high fantasy adventure for me. I guess I'm not like an adventure story person. I want a little bit more of the characters, and I either want to sit with the characters in their day-to-day life and just have fun with them and just follow them around, or I want more action. I don't like this in-between where like there's some action and then we're just walking, and it's not actually interesting because they're not like meeting new people. Sometimes they are, but sometimes they're just walking and you're just hearing the history of the people of the lands, and I don't care. I stopped caring. In the second book, I definitely much preferred Sam and Frodo's sections. I like Gollum. I don't like Gollum. I feel for Gollum. So I really like those sections, and it was definitely more interesting to me when Gollum was part of what was going on. Even in the third book, I think I just like Sam a lot more than the other characters also. I love Pippin. I love Merry, but I feel like they have a lot more personality in the movies than they do in the books. Same with Aragorn even. Like, I really liked Aragorn. But I don't know. He wasn't quite as, like, catching in the books. And I did not like Boromir at all, which I don't remember disliking him so much in the movies. But I hated him. Every time he opened his mouth, I was like, just shut up. Nobody wants to hear from you. Stop talking. So I did not like Boromir at all. Didn't like him. But yeah, I just felt like, I don't know. I felt like Sam and Frodo were a lot more interesting to hear from. I liked their interactions better. I liked their dialogue better. Sam is the MVP. Sam is fantastic. Love him. Yeah, even though he's kind of mean to Gollum and he doesn't need to be, I'm like, calm down, chill out, be a little nicer. Otherwise, fantastic. So, yeah. So those were the last 3 that I read. I actually did also reread Daughter of Smoke and Bone for the 3rd or 4th time. Maybe just the 3rd time. Because I have a friend that I finally convinced to read it. But I'm not going to talk about that because I haven't finished the series yet, my reread of it. Because I'm waiting on her. I'm trying to like read it with her, and she hasn't started the 2nd book yet. So I'm going to bug her about that right after this because I would really like to get back into that. So that's my then, there's like a then, now, next trend. You know, like the past reads, current read, next read. So maybe I will get my current reads and then move on to what I'm reading after, I guess. I don't really have a solid plan, but we'll see. So I'm currently doing a reread of it on audiobook while I'm at work, because I just read this. This was the last book I read before coming home from school, and I think I finished it at school, or at least like very shortly after getting home. So I didn't include it. I wasn't going to include it in this video, but I am currently rereading it, and I wanted to reread it while it's still fresh in my mind, because it's so long. This is a huge book, and so I was just confused for like the first couple hundred pages. Honestly, for book one, I was so confused because Stephen King is just introducing all of these characters so fast and giving you little snippets about them, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to keep them all straight, and then he's like talking about them in all these situations, and I'm like, wait, which one was that? Was that this one? Was that like the takes a bath one? Was that the medicine one? Like, I don't know. And I just had to keep like refreshing my memory and going back. So I wanted to reread it while it was still fresh in my mind so I could appreciate the first few hundred pages where he is introducing those characters and you still don't really know them very well. I wanted to come back to that after I did know and love the characters. So I've already really, really enjoyed that. I don't know how far into it I am. Am I like only 100 pages? Yeah. Okay, so I'm like 120-ish pages into it, which honestly I thought maybe I'd be farther by now. Listening to an audiobook, it's hard to tell. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And also, there are some things in like the first section, or no, the second section where he's talking about like the past, but not the far past. The like, there are different timelines. But in that section, he like briefly mentions a couple historical things that happened in this town. And I didn't catch them the first time because it's literally just like a couple words in a sentence, like, oh yeah, and then this. And then it's glossed over and he moves on. But later in the book, he actually details those events. That's the word I was looking for. So it was really cool to like catch that this time and be like, oh, he's going to talk about that in 600 pages. Which is just crazy. Oh my gosh, this book is so long. But anyway, so I'm listening to this on audiobook. And then while I wait for my friend to read Days of Blood and Starlight, I'm reading The Rescue by Nicholas Sparks. Every summer I like to read a Nicholas Sparks and a John Green book. And I don't currently have another John Green book, so I don't know if I'm going to be ordering one before the end of the summer. It's August, like I said. I have like 2 weeks. So I might forego that this year. I have enough other romance books that I could read instead. This one's taking me a while to get through. I'm not as interested. I've read a couple by Nicholas Sparks, and they're kind of hit or miss. They might be a little bit slow for me. I don't read a lot of romance. It's not really my vibe, but I do enjoy Nicholas Sparks every once in a while. But this one is just, I don't know. It's a little slow. It's a little very slow. And it's 400 pages. And I'm on 147. So I'm making progress, but I'm making very slow progress. I'm very tempted to like start another book, but I need to just read this and finish it and then move on. And then I lately have been trying to read a nonfiction book and a fiction book so I can bounce back and forth between them. And usually that's like a more Christian nonfiction devotional type book. So right now I'm reading Gentle and Lowly, which was a gift from the RUF on my campus. All the seniors got this as a gift. So this is actually very, very good already. It's been very helpful. And there are some things that have been happening the last few weeks that this has been very helpful for also. Like, I read one chapter and it was just exactly what I needed to hear, which is really cool to me when that happens. So yeah, so I'm really liking that. As far as what I'm going to read next, I have no idea. Most of these books are unread. Yeah, I really don't know what I'm going to read next. I have so many options, and sometimes that's very overwhelming. I need to do like a TBR video and just pick random ones or something. A reading through my TBR video, maybe. I also need to film a video going through all of the unread books on my shelf. But I'm kind of waiting till I have more shelves for that, which is exciting. It's a possibility that my dad and I will be making some floating shelves to put on the wall, like my romance bookshelf that's just on the wall. And then I'll be able to get all of my Victorian novels up on shelves, and maybe even my school books. So that will be awesome. I'm really hoping that'll happen within the next couple weeks, and then I can film like these are my bookshelves. I can film a bookshelf tour. That's what that's called. But I might just go through and do a like how many books are unread on my shelf type video, before I do an official bookshelf tour. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I have a ton of options. So maybe I'll go through and do that video and talk about what my next reads are in that video. Because I'm really just trying to cut down on my unread books. Because there are just way too many. It's bad. I did just unhaul a whole bunch of them, or like cull, or whatever term you want to use. I did just get rid of a whole bunch. So that's good, freeing up some space. But there's still so many more. So I'm going to work on that. But anyway, that's it for this video. I really hope that, this was enjoyable. If you did like it, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Tell me what you're reading right now. Tell me if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts are. Oh, recommend some Stephen King to me, because I would love to read more Stephen King. I read 11/22/63 and It, and then Strawberry Springs, his short story, and I've read a couple other short stories by him. But I'm looking for some good recommendations. I can't even think of all of his books right now. I know that he's written so many, and I'm not so much a horror person. My favorite thing about It is not the horror in it, which is 25% of the book. My favorite thing is the 75% of the book that is just you hanging out with these kids on this summer that changed their life. And just day by day, what's their life like? I love that. I love just hanging out with a character. I love slice of life. And 75% of It is slice of life. And I love that. So if there's any more Stephen King that you know that's like that, because that was also my favorite part of 11/22/63, is just hanging out with the main character. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for. I don't know if I would like Misery. I have a friend who loves that book and made me watch the movie, and I hated the movie, so I don't really want to read the book, and I don't really know that I want to read Pet Sematary. I'm not really sure. So I would happily take some recommendations of maybe his lighter books that are not full thrillers, or even if they are thrillers, they have enough of that slice of life, hanging out with the characters feel to them. So let me know. That would be great. I guess that's all. Comment anything else you want, but yeah, definitely Stephen King recommendations. Oh, okay, and another comment, I guess. Do you prefer the Lord of the Rings books or the movies? Because even though I have not seen the movies in so long, I think I'm probably firmly movies over books, which is rare. Not that I think the books are bad. I think the books are fantastic. But for me, personally, I prefer them as movies. I love The Hobbit, though, so that might still be a book for me. I don't know. Let me know. But yeah, that's it for this video. I'm going to actually say goodbye now, and I'll catch you in the next one, hopefully. Bye-bye.